An epithet renames a person or thing with a descriptive phrase. To maintain the meter of the poem or complete a line of verse, the poet would often use an epithet containing the necessary number of syllables. For example, Homer often refers to Odysseus by such epithets as son of Laertes and raider of cities. You can see in the first one, Odysseus is referred to by his father, and the second one, raider of cities, of course, tells the reader that he is someone not to be messed with, someone that will plunder enemy cities, taking all of their valuables out with him. An allusion, not to be confused with an illusion, is a reference to a literary or historical person, place, event, or composition, such as a poem or a novel or some kind of story. For example, when Telemachus, Odysseus' son, beholds the palace of Menelaus, he proclaims, "This is the way the court of Zeus must be." Every listener in Greece immediately understands the allusion to Zeus, the ruler of the gods. One of the most important elements of a strong allusion is the prior knowledge of the audience. If I was to say that John, as a chef, is the Michael Jordan of the culinary world, only those people that know Michael Jordan as a fantastic basketball player would understand that I'm saying that John must be one heck of a chef. In the same way, if I said that Tyler, on today's test, had his own personal battle of Little Bighorn, most of you would probably know that Tyler did not do very well on the test, since you have just studied General George Custer and his massive defeat at the battle. Another good example of an allusion that may or may not work is saying that Sally has a Mona Lisa smile. Now, you might be aware of the Mona Lisa, but you would have to know that many people consider Mona Lisa's smile mysterious, for no one really knows why she's smiling. So to get the full illusion, you would have to know that I'm saying that Sarah has a rather mysterious smile of her own.
Perform all over. Europe mostly.
European tours.
Yeah.
Hi, sorry I'm late.
Hey, you wearing the Friars Club jacket?
Yeah, it wasn't ready on time. I have to return it after the show.
Sure. How about these seats? Are these fantastic, huh? Yeah, I feel like Lincoln.
Yeah, well, let's hope this evening turns out a little better.
What were you saying to the Rosses over there anyway?
Oh, man, I don't know. I told them her death takes place in the shadow of new life. She's not really dead if we find a way to remember her.
What is that?
Star Trek 2.
Wrath of Khan!
Hey, Kramer and I saw it last night. Spock dies, they wrap him up in a towel, and they shoot him out the bowels of the ship in that big sunglasses case.
That's a hell of a thing when Spock died.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, the stone is up. Paid my respects. I guess that's it. Huh?
So it's over?
I have mourned for 3 long months. Summer months, too. Anybody could grieve in January. It's time for George to start being George again.
All right, so let's do something later. How about a movie?
Yes! Nothing says George like a movie.
Movie? Yeah, you in?
No, I can't. I got my martial arts class.
Oh, George is going to the movie!
Hello, George.
Oh, come in. Come in.
We tried to call, but the line was busy.
Oh, yeah, sure, here. Please. Cheese there?
We know the last 3 months have been hard on you.
Oh, yes. Very, very hard.
And they've been hard on us, too. It's a terrible tragedy when parents outlive their children.
Yes, I agree. I hope my parents go long before I do.
That's why we decided to create a foundation to preserve Susan's memory.
That's wonderful.
And of course, we want you to be an integral part.
Yes, intricate. How intricate?
You'll be on the board of directors.
Right. Oh, gosh, you know, it's just my duties with the Yankees, you know, with
Don't
Strawberry.
worry, George. The foundation will revolve around your schedule. Evenings, weekends, whenever you have free time.
I can't believe this is happening.
Well, it wouldn't have without your friend Jerry's inspirational words. He said to us, she's not really dead if her shadow is... what was it, dear?
Something about a way, wasn't it? And a light, and a... Who the hell knows?
Well, what's important is that your relationship with Susan doesn't have to end.
So will you be sure to thank Jerry for us?
The second I see him... Hey. How's your day? Good?
Actually, yeah. I'm meeting Mulva here in a few minutes.
So, Rathacon, huh?
Yeah. Was that a beauty or what?
What was that line again? Something about finding your way in a shadow?
No. She's not really dead if we find a way to remember her.
That's it. That's the line that destroyed my life.
Rob?
The Rosses have started up a foundation, Jerry, and I have to sit on the board of directors.
Hey, board of directors, look at you.
Yeah, look at me. I was free and clear. I was living the dream. I was stripped to the waist eating a block of cheese the size of a car battery.
Before we go any further, I'd just like to point out how disturbing it is that you equate eating a block of cheese with some sort of bachelor paradise.
Don't you see? I'm back in.
All because of Wrath of Khan?
Yes!
Well, it was the best of those movies.
Marooned for all eternity in the center of a dead planet. Buried alive. Buried alive.
On page 367, it talks about reading the epic as poetry. Read the epic aloud. We will try to read it as much as we can out loud in class. Listen for sound devices such as alliteration, the repetition of initial consonant sounds, meter, that rhythm of syllables, and the rhyme, and notice how they reflect and enhance meaning. Also, follow the punctuation closely and remember that the end of the line does not indicate the end of a thought. One example of this, if you will look back on page 366, translation 2, you'll notice that the ideas run through the end of a line. A lot of young readers might read translation 2 as, Dawn came, showing her rosy fingers, through the early mists, and Telemachus leapt out of bed. He dressed himself, slung a sharp sword over his shoulder, strapped a stout pair of boots on his lissom feet, and came forth from his chamber like a young god. Instead of pausing at the end of every line, read through to the period, pausing slightly at the appropriate commas. Dawn came, showing her rosy fingers through the early mists, and Telemachus leapt out of bed. He dressed himself, slung a sharp sword over his shoulder, strapped a stout pair of boots on his lissom feet, and came forth from his chamber like a young god. Back on page 367, also consider how imagery and figurative language, including the epic similes, reveal characters and events. Note the allusions that are used and the epithets that are repeated throughout the piece. All of these should help you to picture these fantastic and fascinating events that take place in this epic poem. Examining the Homeric epics, considered the greatest masterpieces of the epic form, the Iliad and the Odyssey present high drama and intense emotions. In both books, important plot elements, including the interference of gods in human affairs, the epic heroism of central characters, and the saga of the Trojan War and its aftermath. The Trojan War, and knowing the Trojan War and the background behind that is important to understand Odysseus' trip home. The legendary conflict between Greece, or Achaea, and Troy began about 1200 BC. If we take a quick pause here, try to think about why Greece would also be known in these translations as Achaea. Think about how many syllables the word Greece has. Think about Achaea, and it's 3 syllables. If Greeks and Achaeans are the same people, why would the author use either word synonymously or as the same thing? The key to that is, of course, that this piece is a piece of poetry, so the proper number of syllables and stress points in the piece are important. So if the poet needs 1 syllable, he might use Greece or Greek, and if he needs 3, he might use Achaean or Achaea to refer to the same thing. All right, so back to the reading. Paris, a Trojan prince, kidnapped Helen, the wife of Menelaus, the king of Sparta. Menelaus recruited the armies of allied kingdoms to attack Troy and recover his wife. For 10 years, the Greek forces held Troy under siege, but they could not penetrate the walls of the city. You might be familiar with this, and some of you already know, the Trojan horse. Yes, after 10 years of battling, they finally come up with a plan. Finally, Odysseus, in his craftiness, in his cunning, the king of Ithaca, came up with a plan to break the stalemate. He ordered his men to build a giant wooden horse. One morning, the people of Troy awoke to find the horse outside the city gates and no Greeks in sight. Assuming that the Greeks had retreated and had left the horse as a peace offering, they brought the horse inside the gates. However, they soon discovered, too late, that the horse was filled with Greek soldiers and that their city was doomed. This is the end of the Iliad, which is the prequel to the Odyssey. Heroism. Great heroes play key roles in Homer's epics. The Iliad tells the story of Achilles, the mightiest Greek warrior, and of his bitter quarrel with Agamemnon, the brother of Menelaus and commander of the Greek forces at Troy. The tale climaxes in a fierce battle between Achilles and Hector, Paris' brother, and Hector's subsequent funeral. The Odyssey recounts Odysseus' adventure as he struggles to make his way home from the post-war Troy, along with the conflicts that arise in Ithaca just before and after his return. He prevails against gruesome monsters, enchanting women, and greedy rivals intent on preventing him from reaching his objective. Although Odysseus lacks the superhuman martial abilities of Achilles, he employs great cleverness and guile to get out of difficult situations. So we see that the Iliad is the focus of Achilles and the 10-year war. The Odyssey itself will recount Odysseus' 10-year journey back home, which means that Odysseus and his men will have been gone from Ithaca for 20 years before he gets back home. And lastly, on the bottom of page 368, the interventions of the god. Adding to the hero's struggle are the residents of Mount Olympus, bickering gods who like nothing better than influencing and manipulating human affairs. For example, Athena, the goddess of wisdom, supports the Greeks in the Trojan War. Aphrodite, the goddess of love, sides with Troy. Further, the heroes often displease other gods who place additional obstacles in their paths. The Olympians display human shortcomings and petty jealousies, and people become pawns in as the gods pursue advantages in their internal quarrels. And so we see in this that the gods themselves are in many ways no better than human beings in how they act. And sometimes we can learn from them by the benevolence or kindness that they show, and also the silliness and malevolence or badness that they show towards one another and towards the human beings.